Today we are making Maelle Rapier from Clair Obscur Expedition 33. I 3D printed mine with an STL from 3Demon, with whom I am partnered with to offer 3D print kits on my Etsy shop. The materials include the 3D printed pieces and the pins, a threaded rod that is 5/32 of an inch or 4 mm in diameter and 39 inches long. I used a 36-inch rod and it works just fine. I recommend bringing a 3D printed piece with you to the hardware store so you can test the fit. We also need a filler putty, such as Quick Seal, super glue, 220 grit sandpaper, optionally a soldering iron to weld the seams, not optionally a respirator to protect your lungs, and then an assortment of paints, including filler primer and a clear coat sealant. The first step is to put your respirator on and then spend years of your life sanding these pieces. This top piece can be quite sharp, so I actually prefer to snap the tip off a bit and round it back out on the sandpaper. We then sand the rest of the PLA pieces as normal. Sanding the resin pieces will give off a lot of dust, so we will want to dip our sandpaper into some water to wet sand them. I'm primarily focusing on areas where the supports touch the print, as there are otherwise virtually no layer lines. Afterwards, I wipe everything down with a damp paper towel because we generated a lot of dust by sanding everything. Next, we glue the basket to the handguard piece. There are these notches on the basket which line up accordingly to the underside of the handguard. The basket flexes when you gently squeeze it. As such, we will gently squeeze the piece to fit it through the handguard like so. Then I apply superglue to the notched areas and line up the pieces. To secure this joint, I mix resin and cornstarch into a slurry of thicker consistency. I then apply it to the joint and spread it out evenly with a toothpick. Then I cure it with a UV light and wipe it with isopropyl alcohol. If you don't have access to these materials, you can also apply superglue on top, add baking soda, and tamp it down. The baking soda and superglue will chemically harden and make the piece stronger. For the blade, we have 6 pieces total and they get assembled in this order. Blades 2 and 3 are the most important to getting the orientation correct. So we're going to pick up blade number 1 and slot it into our handguard/basket piece. Scooch it up a bit and apply some glue on the front and back. That way when you slide it back down, it gets glued into place. I wipe off the excess glue with a paper towel and set it to the side.
I then glue together the handle and the pommel, and after that piece sets, you can glue the threaded rod into it. I like to do a dry fit first, marking the place where the piece ends with a Sharpie. This lets me know how far up the rod I should apply the glue. After that has cured, we can really start assembling our pieces. Pick up the assembled handguard and apply glue to the bottom before sliding this ring piece in place. I then take this whole bundle and dry fit slide it onto the threaded rod on top of the handle. I mark with a Sharpie, apply glue, and slide it into place. There are 2 divots on this piece on either side of the threaded rod, and that is where we will glue our pegs into place. Pick up blade 2 and glue it onto the threaded rods and pegs, paying attention that the runes are facing up when the handguard is on the right side of the handle. These are the basic steps you will repeat for the rest of the blades until you have a complete rapier. The next thing we have to tackle is covering up these seams. I take a soldering iron at approximately 220 degrees Celsius and weld the seams together by melting the plastic and blending the lines until you can't see them anymore. I repeat this process on all seams and then sand them once more. If you don't have a soldering iron, you can simply use Quick Seal to cover the seams. I like to use it to not only go over the seams, but to also add texture. You can dip your finger into a bit of water to feather out the edges and then stipple over it with a sponge to stamp some texture. I do this all over the blade and let it dry for a few hours. Next, it's time to paint. I take it to my very high-tech spray booth and use Rust-Oleum Automotive Filler Primer, which helps fill layer lines. I do about 3 or 4 moderate coats all over the rapier. I then use Folk Arts Terracotta Textured Paint in Obsidian as my base layer, using the brush to dab it on to emphasize even more texture. I then start with my base gold, this time using the ever-fitting Lumiere paint in Old Brass. I use a little bit on my paintbrush to lightly scrape over the texture paint and build up layers until I have the balance between pigmentation and wear that I want. I dabble and layer other shades of gold to add depth. The handle is painted a dark brown, taking care not to cover the gold. I flood the runes with the basic black acrylic paint and wipe away the excess with a paper towel. You want to do this quickly so the paint doesn't have a chance to dry, but you can also always go in and do touch-ups with gold. I then add highlights using this Vallejo gold paint, which honestly looks more silvery to me, but it contrasts nicely with the gold. I highlight all the edges and high spots. I use the dark brown to add shadows in the recesses, wiping and blotting them off with a paper towel. And the last step is to clear coat everything. I use matte Mod Podge. Make sure not to layer it too heavily because then it might not dry all the way and leave a white residue. Be extra careful that it doesn't pool in the runes either. And that's it. Now the Maelle Rapier is complete. And I don't make the rules, but everyone with a Maelle Rapier has an obligation to parry it! Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out 3Demon and my Etsy shop if you want to make your own.